Vigorously bopping here to my music. I need to make a custom one of those intros at some point. Hey, wow, there's 4 people instantly on the direct feed. Nobody in the group yet, but that's because the group is slow and takes forever. I'm just going to go making everyone post in there so that Facebook actually tells people that I'm doing this. If you're here, sound off, say hi. It's nice to see folks for our impromptu afternoon tea with Mel. And I actually have tea in my Saskatchewan Starbucks cup as well, which is very important. Um, it's funny too because Jill's like, "What do you want, Earl Grey or Irish breakfast tea?" I'm like, "Of course I want Earl Grey, and that's because I'm wearing gray today." And she's like, "Yeah, because Picard drank Earl Grey, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's because Picard drank or drank. I mean, I feel like that's all the reason you need. Captain Picard drank it. That's it. That's the rationale." Hey, Allie and Lore and Deborah and Victoria and Kate and me. Hey, Dharma. Writing well queer. I like it. You're just owning it. Way to go. Keenan. Yeah, it's good too, right? Like it's not like it's bad tea. It's good tea. Hey, Amy and Chuck. Pumpkin spice coffee with a side of productive rage. I totally get that. Yeah, I mean, if you read the description I made for this, what was it like? Oh, it's right here in the chat. Coming for a check-in, some practical thoughts, silver line grasping, and more than the little gallows hero. Um, how to prove you're Canadian. It's true, right? If you can say Saskatchewan, then you are probably Canadian. I was born in Saskatchewan, so I've got that going for me too. You say Saskatchewan, then you're out. You have to leave immediately. It's a rule. Actually, I always joke that they made me leave for some sort of reason like that too. Or I'm like, yeah, they kicked me out of Canada because I wasn't nice enough. Everybody's like, but Mel, you're so nice. And I'm like, am I though? I don't know. I don't know about that. Hey, Fatima. Hope you're doing well too. Hi, Angel. He just says, what are your thoughts on increasing the age? I like we're getting right to some ad stuff. Good. Take our minds off things. What are your thoughts on increasing the age range for ads? I know that most of my clicks come from older readers, ages 45 and up. This is for a romance genre. Older people tend to click on ads more, but they don't necessarily convert more. They seem to love just clicking on ads. It's a US thing too. Like if you run ads in other countries, you're going to find that you get way fewer clicks for the same number of conversions. We like to click on things in the US. We're very clicky. What I would probably do for your particular genre is run an ad set targeting, like, I don't know, whatever you're targeting now. Actually, no, not even that. I don't, cause assuming you're targeting a fairly broad range, I might target like 25 to 55 and then do another one that's 55 to 65 plus and see what your conversions look like for each one using attribution links. That will probably tell you the tail as well. And then see what your age ranges look like too. It is worth noting if you run still image ads versus video ads, you'll tend to do better with an older audience. And if you want to reach that younger audience a lot, you have to do video ads because that younger audience is more on Instagram and more hanging out on Reels on Facebook. So they're going to get targeted more if they're running Reels. Hey, Dawn, thanks for the hugs. Need that. Hey, Fiona and Gwendolyn. Victoria said, I've got through 4 of the 7 stages of grief so far. Gwendolyn says, I came here for some hope. I'd really like to, well, we've got more people watching right now than we normally get at any given time on one of my weekly casts I do. So yeah, I'll bring some hope for sure. Jen says, do you run the exact same ad or only change the targeting age? Yeah, I would run the exact same ad and just change the targeting age. And then of course have a different attribution link so you can track them against each other. And I've had mixed results. I've had some people we do better targeting older people, I should say, and other people we've done better targeting younger audiences. It's really a book by book sort of thing. Like I've run so many ads for so many authors and so many genres, and even like nuances like like this type of romance versus this type of romance versus this type of romance, all contemporary, and the results are different. It's really a book by book thing, and you've got to do the testing yourself. So yeah, my energy can change a day. Oh, thanks, Gwendolyn. I appreciate that. Hey, Jody. Jen says, I don't think I'm anywhere near any stage of grief. This has been a hell of a day. Yeah. Brewing tea, Lisa. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Gotta have the tea, right? I don't even do this on purpose, the finger. It just does this, right? It just sticks out like that. You can't stop it. It's funny. I had so our daughter Eva said this morning to me, she's like, are they gonna make you and mama get divorced if they get to do everything they want? I'm like, no, because if they're going to like block gay marriage, first they're going to not recognize me as trans, and then suddenly Jill and I are in a cis heterosexual relationship and everything's fine. So like, I got the end run. Obviously that is not a solve to soothe all injuries, but it was something that was good for my daughter to hear and laugh about. So some of the gallows humor. I think it was I was on a call earlier today and we were talking about because I think there's just some valid topics, right? We were talking about like, what if they do some of the Project 2025 stuff and ban all erotica books, movies, everything? I said, well, we talked a lot about a couple of things first. I said, and before we get to that point, I'll be in a concentration camp, so you'll know if that's coming. Um, I'll be your canary in the coal mine for you. But no, I think that actually is something that's worth talking about that I do want to chat about. But first, let me catch up on chat because you guys are going. Sherry says, hey, Mal, sending hugs. My daughter's a trans woman. I'm frightened for her, for all of us. I do have a marketing question. I'm an American living in the UK. I've heard it said that that images and text ads appeal to different readers in the UK than the US. Do you have insight on what those differences are? It's also very genre specific and book specific and everything. One of them is that if you're going to appeal to British readers, you kind of want to like come to them where they are, right? So avoid American colloquialisms and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, if your book's set in the States and it's written in U.S. English, then of course you don't want to missell it and make it seem like it's be British English and stuff like that, and they get into it and it's like American English. So I do think one thing, the Brits are a lot more off put by hard sells than Americans are. We're kind of used to it. We kind of have an abrasive hard sell culture here. So so do keep that in mind. The Brits, you can't, if you tell Brits to do something, it's not going to happen. So if you say like click here to get the book, they're like, fuck you, you're not telling me where to click. But they're not going to say fuck you. They're going to say something much more British, depending on where they're from, I guess. So do keep that in mind, that and also keep in mind that your result rates will be lower. Brits click a lot less, but they do convert at a higher rate for those clicks. Angel says, are you a big fan of lookalike audiences? Nope, because lookalike audiences aren't built on things like the books that people like to read. Lookalike audiences, think about who Facebook's made for. Facebook is made for big corporations selling expensive things. So what they care about is your demographics and your purchasing power. Those are the primary things that go into lookalike audiences. College educated, own your own home, not homeroom. Have a car, rent, lease, how many kids do you have, how old are they, all that sort of thing. That's what lookalike audiences are built up around primarily, and then other stuff is sort of comes afterward. Jill says your fingers always on that while drinking tea. Courtney says it's a rough day. Austin, for you to be opening to go live today. Yeah, I slurred all of those words. Courtney says awesome for you being open to go live today. It was actually Jill's idea. And I'm pretty sure that Jill wanted me to do it for me as much as for you, because sometimes just sort of being around my people and talking and doing something like this helps me out emotionally quite a bit as well. So don't feel like you're just taking. You guys being here is giving a lot as well. So that's awesome. Monica says she's screaming into the void. There's some void screaming. Yep, that's got to happen. Kate says, strangely, my experiment to target 25 to 54 rather than 25 to 65 didn't work. Could have been the October slump. Yeah, that is a little bit tricky. That's why I would recommend doing two at the exact same time. And maybe you go to 50. It's 25 to 50 and then 50 to 65 plus at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to get time of month, time of week, month of year. All those different things can screw it up. I do think book bans will happen and likely easier than it's been. Kate says, I love your dark humor. Yeah, Courtney says, I do think book bans will happen. It's happened before. Those of you who were around in KU 1.0 surely remember when it sort of came out in the news that half of Amazon's bestseller list was smut. To put not too fine a point on it. And they created the dungeon and they caused a lot of problems. And I do think that is something that could happen. Facebook currently doesn't really seem to care. And Mark Zuckerberg lately has been taking much more of a libertarian approach to things, and like an actual libertarian approach to things versus an Elon Musk libertarian approach to things. Downside is he got rid of a whole bunch of the people that were like making sure that Facebook stayed good during elections. But that being said, hopefully he will come down on the side of free speech. I mean, only time will tell. So I don't know that Facebook is going to get too grouchy about things. Amazon's another question though, because the company out there that really affects a lot of these things, sorry, I'll get back to that question, Angel. Company out there that affects a lot of these things is MasterCard. Visa doesn't seem to give a shit. But MasterCard is pretty prudish. And most like loyal fans, Fansly, which are like things like OnlyFans, they'll be like, we have to check your post before we can put it out there because of MasterCard rules. OnlyFans just like, yeah, show whatever you want. We don't give a shit. And that's because OnlyFans makes them so much money for MasterCard that they're willing to set their morals aside or whatever they have aside and take OnlyFans' money. Whereas like Pornhub, all of the places, they don't give OnlyFans, they don't give MasterCard enough money for MasterCard to set its morals aside. So the question would really come, how much money does Amazon like having from all the people who read and watch smut versus how much influence will MasterCard have on them? And then how much influence we put on both of them from whatever external institutions put influence on them. So that'll be the real thing to come into play. I think that, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea what's going to happen. I do think a very likely scenario is that AMS will get more strict about books. Amazon might be more free with the dungeon, which is always such a funny, I love that name for it. And Facebook won't care because Facebook isn't actually selling the product. But laws could change. You never know, right? Angel says, what if it's a niche genre like gay romance for lookalike audiences? You're actually even worse off doing that because all of the filters you're going to put in. I mean, so if you do a lookalike audience straight up, so a lookalike audience by default is like 1% of the total country's population. That's most like the people you're basing your lookalike audience on. And then, because that could be anybody, right? You have to filter it back down again by readers, by people who have particular interests and whatnot. And you're going to end up with an audience that is a fraction of the size of that 1 million. You're better off just doing that filtering on the whole population. And generally for queer romance, your best bet is to filter by the steamiest authors, because if people are going to read super steamy authors, Shayla Black, Melissa Foster, that sort of thing, that even if it's not their cup of tea, your queer romance that you're writing, they're at least not going to report the ad or something like that. Should we just start categorizing our fantasy romance as fantasy and not using romance keywords? I guess, Allison, does your fantasy romance have a lot of queer themes or erotic themes in it? I don't think it'll actually help, but I'm kind of curious a little bit. Wow, we're getting a full house here. All right, I'm going to scroll back up. Victoria says, just read Seven Figure Fiction. What do you think about universal fantasy IDs for each scene and chapter as you go along and buttering them beaucoup? I mean, universal fantasies are legit. I don't outline, so I don't really think of like things like labeling my scenes and whatnot. For me, my universal fantasy is the setting itself. And then my characters just do what is logical for them, because I write science fiction, right? So my universal fantasy is that there are still unknowns and places to explore and new mysteries to see that no one's ever seen before. That's one of the big universal fantasies. There's probably a fancy name for it. And the other one I write is found family. And those are just like part of everything, you know? So I don't do that. I mean, I don't know, it's hard because I have a really hard time putting myself in the mindset of someone that crafts a book before they write it. So I don't know if you should do that or not. However, Theodora is super smart. So if she's suggesting you do that, if you outline, I'm guessing it's for an outline. It feels like something you do for an outline. I think you could always try it. That's one of the things too, is like people have a lot of advice about how you should write your books. At the end of the day, you have to do what works for you, and you have to do what works for the book. I have actually outlined about 3 or 4 books because those books just needed to be outlined. And I've had books where I tried to outline it, and the only way I could finish the book was by throwing out my outline. So you've always got to do what's right for you as an author, and then what's right for that book, and it's going to change, over time. So that's a thing. Da, 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 da. Jill said, I actually thought we needed to be around you. I'm guessing it's we as all the authors. Why are you crying, Kate? It's very sweet. I'm behind on the comments, so I'm not sure why you're crying, but I do. I'm hopefully they're good, happy-ish tears. Yasmin said, I was just thinking about things like book bans and Project 2025. What's your take on romances? Okay, we kind of talked about that. I'm going to come back around to that. Let's see what Allison says. LGBT cast, diverse, very spicy. I can't decide if found family cozy, anything will take off, or if it'll be grim, dark tone stories. So you haven't published them yet? I mean, then you can wait and see a bit. I really do feel like though. Well, so here's the thing. Unless you're running AMS ads, the Amazon categories don't matter. Or correction, unless you're running AMS ads or shooting for a bestseller or like a #1 spot in hot new releases, the Amazon categories don't matter. They always matter a little bit, but if you're not doing those things, the amount of matter that they have is very small. If you're going to be driving people to your book through your own efforts, Facebook ads, newsletter, beating the streets, whatever it might be, then those categories aren't going to matter at all. So they may not be an issue. But if you are going to use something like AMS, I mean, fantasy romance readers are going to be looking for books that are like their book. If the hammer starts coming down, then yeah, you could recategorize. But at this point, I think we're probably not that far off from Amazon just be able to read all of our books with AI and then categorize them on their own anyway. So I'm not sure that it'll really bias anything in that regard. So yeah, Yasmin saying, just think about Project 25, like book bans, which are taking on romance with explicit sex scenes in them, but where it's not the major focus. I mean, according to people have talked to Amazon reps, and Amazon reps have said, if there is one sex scene in your book, it's erotica. Now, what I haven't been able to figure out is that primarily reps overseas, or is that reps in the United States that are saying that to people? Because Amazon outsources a lot of their support to India, and they are a more conservative society there. So I don't know if that's just like a given reps particular statement, because I mean, sure, anybody who's worked with Amazon knows that what you can be told very different things about Amazon based on the rep you're talking to, as far as what's the rules. So, but if that actually is an internal policy that Amazon has, that one explicit open door sex scene is enough to categorize you as erotica, and then they start actually following that, it could be a problem. But I do think like we have never been in a better position for authors to sell their books in places other than Amazon. It is going to be more work if we have to do that, but it's better now than it's ever been before for that particular need. Alicia said, do you think Cozy Reads will blow up now? Doing people want to skip? I think it's a great time for Cozy Mysteries, by the way. Continuing the second part of Yasmin's comment, Jill's doing a lot of cozies, and she's ready to be like, I've got your cozy escape right here, kind of thing. But I think escapism will work for everybody, right? Like my readers are not going to want to read a cozy mystery, but they're more than happy to go read a pew pew space battle book. That's their escapism, and that'll be just fine. So I think that, especially if you think you have a fairly, left-leaning audience in your particular case, then it's going to be a great marketing tactic. But you also don't want to be insensitive as well. You don't be like, hide from the world in my book. More like take a break in my book, kind of thing. Hey, Paula from Australia. Yeah, I'm glad I'm doing it too, Jody. I think we all need it. Let's see. Jill commented on the cozy thing. I'm so far behind comments. You guys are blowing things up. Sydney says, I have books under a pen name in the dungeon for a decade or more. No idea how to bring them out of the darkness. Never even think about them anymore. Yeah, that is a thing. I mean, to bring them out of the darkness, you'd have to probably delete them and republish them entirely and change them enough that they don't get flagged as the same book. Just as my dungeon books sell just fine. I just rely on word of mouth and social media posts. And that's the thing you got to do. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Dharma, I could see that for you especially. Especially because of what you write for your gritty crime thrillers. It might be like a little too close to reality in some cases, I'm guessing. Um, Courtney says, as an apocalypse writer, I bet that my genre blows up again because readers believe they have an idea of what could happen. And they read those types of fictions. Yeah, I can see that. Jody Reeves says, Roland said he saw your Halloween witch outfit, so he's pretty sure you have a crystal ball. It's in the shop. That's the problem. It's not the most reliable crystal ball, and I'm working on it. Yeah, I agree with Jill says. Jill says I don't think we should panic and what if too much. Um, it's easy to catastrophize and then let yourself spiral. And you know, things can change, right? That's the constant. Nothing stays the same. But I also do feel like um it's difficult. Like there's not a the United States does not have a strong framework for national censorship. It exists because we have things like the FCC, but the FCC doesn't cover books. There is interstate commerce law. Like I'm not a lawyer, so and I'm not a constitutional scholar or anything like that. So I'm I don't know any better than anybody else does, obviously. Um, and many people know better than me, but the government would have to do a bunch of work to start to create things like national bans on certain things. Because a lot of free speech comes into it too, right? Like at a certain point, you get so dictatorial that even people who want to limit our free speech will realize that the laws they're passing could harm them um, to some degree, at least. That sometimes tends to cause people to back down a bit too far from the extreme. Not to say it works all the time, but it is definitely going to become more of a state by state thing. That's for sure. Like we are very privileged, Jill and I, to live in Massachusetts. So it's different depending on where you are, right? Because I mean, we've already seen that in Florida, how they've taken a lot of books out of public spaces. So it'll be interesting. And we might just end up having places other than Amazon where we sell stuff. Maybe we just all start figuring out this bootleg book economy. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm here to be the scrappy underdog and to like up, to stick it to the man. Okay, yeah. Do you think sales of books will pick up now, or they'll slump, or will the slump continue for a little while longer? I think advertising will be cheaper, although it'll go up again around Thanksgiving. I think the book sales are going to pick up. I think it's tricky though, right? Because if your readership is very left leaning, like if you're writing queer things like I do or whatnot, your readership's left leaning, they might be anxious. So, have compassionate hope as your messaging as much as possible, or just compassionate offering of escapism, and that'll probably help. But don't be dismissive, or if you are doing messaging like this, where you're saying like, hey, come get my book for an escape. Don't do it in such a way that's like, oh, everything. Don't be like patronizing. Be like, oh, everything will be fine. Because that's not going to help. Not saying that you would do that in particular, Paula, but even during periods of war and occupation, entertainment media survives. So it totally can. We might just have to be smart and scrappy and change the way we do things. Find other ways of getting our books into readers' hands, and making a living off of this. Oh, Courtney said, I'm not sure how I never realized you weren't a plotter before. Yeah, 128 books, 4 of them plotted. Victoria says that Theodore advises writing an outline first, then blurb before you even begin writing the book. Yeah, I don't do either of those things, but Jill writes the blurb and sometimes an outline. You got to do what works for you. I always joke about how I'm going to eventually do a webinar on put your pants back on, to help pantsers, because I think some people have to pants, and I think a lot of times pantsers feel like they're not doing it right because they're not being outlined, they're not being structured, they're not being organized. But there are ways to write to pants well, where you pants yourself into a corner less often. So I want to help people with that. I think I'm a pretty good pantser, and I've learned a lot of things too. Amy says sometimes writing the blurb is easier than the full outline if you're a pantser, and it leaves a story room to evolve. Yes, I like that, and it gives you a foundation. Danica says it varies from rep to rep, not internal policy. I didn't think it was internal policy either, referring to the one sex scene makes you erotica thing. Gwendolyn says, with Vela coming down, I'm thinking of using the book I just started posting as a new reader magnet. Should it only be available in my newsletter? Should also put on perma-free book on KDP? Only do it in your newsletter, right? Like the whole point of that book is going to be to get readers on your newsletter. If you give them a way to get the book without putting them on your newsletter and you're just giving it away for free, what are you getting, right? So do it for yourself. Mel's in YouTube, Cithro says, Mel's ready to fight saying, put up your dukes. That's right. I'll have really long nails, and you cannot make good fists when you have long nails. You're either going to do this or you're going to do this and shove your nails through your hand when you punch someone. So yeah, this is the best. Although I think I could still do all right. Yeah, I'll be all right. Bust my own knuckles a little bit. Mirren says, good morning. Good morning, Mirren. Emma says, where is everyone? I'm not seeing all the comments. Must be a different link. Some of the comments are on YouTube. Some are on my personal profile. Most people are in our Writing Wives group that are commenting. But yeah, not all of them are in here. Yasmin says, I used to write a cozy paranormal series, and once I went indie, I earned 4x on it. In 4 years, I did in 12 years with a publisher. I'm thinking of taking my new PWF series and taking it to a little cozier than usual, but keeping the spooky stuff that my readers love. It's paranormal matchmaker series. That stuff does great, Yasmin. That sounds like an awesome idea. Mirren says, is it time to try that clean romance I've always been considering? Tell you, clean westerns. It's a huge genre. Or clean small town. Or clean monster. I feel like that's actually a thing that's kind of taken off. Yasmin says, yeah, but my number 2 strategic and number 7 futuristic are going crazy right now. Working on overtime. My number 1 achiever is ready for it. I like that. Yeah, you got to watch out for that. You can be making plans. Keenan has practiced constitutional law. That's a fair point. Keenan says it wouldn't matter if you're a constitutional lawyer. The entire Constitution is up for reevaluation by the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's fair. Oops, I accidentally backed out of the whole stream and thought I'd lost it for a second, but I didn't. It's still alive. All right. Jill says, can put some steamy erotica content behind a paywall, though we may need to build it ourselves. Yeah, so let's actually, I'm going to put that on hold for a second. I'm going to come back around to that. But Ariescape's been a while on YouTube says, Answers, I've learned that for me is part of my ADH dopamine hunt. For me too, right? Because when I write the story, I'm on the same adventure. I'm like a reader. I don't know what's going to happen. It's amazing. But I get lost in the plot and forget where I was and have to go back and plan out what I started. It's like wrangling kittens, but having a favorite you watch and then you don't know where the other ones went. That's a pretty good way to describe that. Troy says, history of the Salem witch trials is coming to mind regarding encroachment, that you speak of things falling at the Inquisition's doorstep. Yeah. That's a little sobering there, Victoria. I don't know. On the plus side, I do like to remind myself that we only had one witch trial in the United States. So we did fairly well in that regard. I mean, compared to Europe. Prohibition for books are a little speakeasy. I would totally run the book speakeasy, right? Like, that's totally going to happen. Monica says, I write romance, and I'm going to highlight the fact that my male characters support and cherish my female characters in my new ads. That is a fabulous idea, Monica. I like that a lot. I think that will work well for you. That's like the feminist version of body positivity. Yasmin says, my readership is very left-leaning. I'm going to try and focus on giving them a way to escape and hope in the books. Gwendolyn says, pantsing is terrifying. He's going blind. I mean, so my thing with pantsing, though, like I always say, like when I'm describing how I write my books, it's more like I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm the DM, and I've crafted this campaign for my characters to go on. I know the setting really well. I know where they are. I know who's in charge. I know what things are called. I've got maps, all sorts of stuff like that. I have an end goal that I'm going to guide my players toward, and then I create the characters and I get to know them. And then I just drop them in there and say like, okay, roll. What are you going to do? And then the characters do things that are true to the character and fit in the setting. So in a way, I am plotting, but in a different way. I'm plotting a story that's going to evolve logically as it should. Security at the book speakeasy password. Oh, what would the password be? It's got to be like a riddle from The Hobbit or something like that. I feel like would have to be the password. You know, what is it? What does it have? What do I have in my pockets or something like that? That would have to be the password. Yasmin says, I'm totally an intuitive writer. Learned how to work with my process instead of fighting it. That's the thing too. And don't go silver bullet hunting and try to think there's some other process that's going to work for you. I mean, do experiment, but don't like beat yourself up and try to force yourself to write for a process that isn't working just because someone else hasn't worked for them. Don't waste a lot of time doing that. Find what works for you and roll with it, but be prepared to tweak, to fit what the book needs. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe we could do that class in December. Yeah, maybe we could. Mirren says, I only pants. My characters are flat otherwise. Yeah, that's a risk for me too. If I plot too much, my characters become cardboard cutouts. I move around the scene. Trisha calls herself a plotster. Start with a sketchy outline, then go where I may. I should say I do, as I write, have a varying number of bullet points that are kind of floating below where I am, like notes I've dropped to like, make sure you do something like this, take this thread somewhere. This character has to do X, Y, Z at some point. Just a few things like that build up throughout the story. And then as the story goes, I start to delete them when I've done the thing. Yeah, Brenda, no pants shame. We don't have to be ashamed of wearing pants. It's fine. All right. Orc cowboys, clean orc cowboy romance. Let's mix all the genres. Let's do it. Space orcs, clean space orc, small town cowboy romance. What else can we get in there? Throw in some urban fantasy. Give them magical orcs. Paula says, one of the things I love about the Writing Wives is how nice you guys are. None of the trolling I see in other forums. Oh yeah, there's no trolling. It's we create a protective bubble, an anti-drama bubble as much as possible. I remember I actually have people say that about me all in different careers I've had too. They're like, Mallory, you always seem to create this bubble of calm around you. I think it's because I don't know. I think it's because of my key tenet, my key personal belief. I mentioned this in a call recently. I don't think it was one of the Lunch with Mals, where I have a very strong belief that if another human can do it, chances are I can do it too. Like maybe not brain surgery, but if I decided to go to school for 1,000 years to learn how to do brain surgery, sure, yeah, I could do it too. My hands are still steady enough, mostly. But I really do believe that if another person can do it, I can do it too. And I look at all obstacles as interesting challenges. An obstacle is not this thing that I just see as a wall that I can't get past, because I know there's the people on the other side of that wall, which means you can get past that wall. I just have to figure out how. And that's a fun challenge. That's interesting. That's exciting. And it's not this immovable object that I can't get past. So I think that's part of how I create this no drama bubble, because I'm not, I'm not ever saying things can't be done. I'm just saying, let's figure it out. Let's figure out a way. And I've also seen so much that I've learned time and time again that saying this can't be done. I mean, my entire life is built on people saying, you can't do that. That can't be done. Like I've built businesses on a bet, on a weekend dare. There's a company out there called Data One Software. And what they do is they create and they tabulate and organize vehicle data, VIN data, and also manufacture add-on data about cars. And then they provide services to dealerships and other companies and whatnot around that data. And the company I worked for at the time did automotive inventory, and they were getting tired of paying a ton of money to their existing vendors. And they're like, could you build a system where we could capture and organize and use our own data and not have to pay these people for the data? Because a lot of times the data was substandard and wrong too. And they're like, we have all these relationships with all these dealers. We could get better data. And so in a weekend, I built the system. And obviously it evolved a lot more, but that company still exists. And everybody's like, you can't do that. That's nuts. That's like a huge business and you're just going to build it on a dare. And I did. So I look at the world like that. I'm like, you say I can't do this, I'm going to do it. You know, I mean, everything. I love being a teacher. I love studying history. I want to be a writer, you know, right? All that sort of thing. People are like, no, don't do that. Go into computers. That's safe. Did computers for a while. And then all the things people said I can't do is like what I do now. I think we do. We do attract good people. Jill's right about that too. It's you guys as well, right? Like we're just creating the place, and you guys are showing up and being good people, which I absolutely love. And Jill is pretty aggressive about spammers and stuff too. Uh, Yasmin says, for pantsers, I develop a way to keep track of the book you're writing. They call a reverse outline. Each chapter I write, I stop and bullet list the highlights. I have a video about that on YouTube. That sounds awesome, Yasmin. You should link to that video. I think people would probably love to see that. That's pretty cool. Speak friend and enter. That would be a good one too for the speakeasy. I like that. Plockets. Now you really do have the patience of a saint. Do I? Thank you. Ashley says, you may have mentioned this before, but at this point in time, is it okay to write cross genres with the same pen name or pollute the social media algorithms too much? Sports, contemporary. I don't think the social media algorithms get polluted too much by you doing that. And if they do, just make multiple accounts. You know, TikTok could perhaps be the one that gets the most polluted from that. TikTok's pretty finicky. But like Facebook is Instagram especially is pretty good at showing your followers your stuff. If they follow you, they're going to see your stuff. Especially, it seems to be like if you do still images on Instagram, your followers will see it a lot. And reels tend to reach a new audience. You can kind of like bolster your existing audience with stills and then grab new people with reels. That seems to be how it breaks down a lot. Looking at a lot of data I have for myself and for others. Amazon's the one you got to look at though, because if you have the exact same pen name on Amazon and you write a new space or cowboy romance, and then Amazon sends out an email about your new release to your super serious, gritty domestic thriller audience as well on Amazon at the same pen name, and then none of them buy the book. Amazon's like, well, that doesn't work, and they nuke it. And of course, as well, if you market these cross books, you can screw up your also bots, which still do exist behind the scenes and do matter. So it really depends on how different they are and how much of your own push you're going to be doing. If you're kind of like really need Amazon's help in getting your readers to know about your stuff, then you got to be more careful about that. If you don't need Amazon so much and you kind of do you drive your own train, then you can worry less about it. However, you can do the exact same name as two separate pen names on Amazon. It does get a bit confusing. So usually I recommend adding in an initial, like Mallory D. Cooper and Mallory Cooper or something like that. So you can tell them apart when you're picking the right name. But you can always do that. And then still one website, one newsletter, whatever, but still just have two separate pen names just for differentiating sake. I've done that with a number of authors and it's actually worked out fairly well for them. It keeps their author pages cleaner too. And it helps them with read through better because if someone goes to your author page and the books they all see at the top are from a different genre, then they don't click anything. But if they go to author page and everything's cut from the same cake, then they'll click on things. So it can work both ways like that. No drama llama life. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate that. Jasmine posted the reverse outline video, so that's something you guys could check out. Looks like that's time 425 seconds into the video. I'm getting if that's not is that intentional, Yasmin, or should people start at the beginning? Jill says I'm not trying to sell anything, but that's why Storyteller Lab is so great. So many caring authors. Yeah, our community at skool.com, SKOOL, is a lot more active actually than our Facebook community is. And it's working really well. Hey, Mel Tolan on Facebook, my profile. How are you doing? It's been a stretch. Bill, I don't think we've actually seen each other in person since we went out for ice cream in Portland 5 years ago. No, we saw each other since then, didn't we? I can't remember now. Yasmin says, just a note, I'm chatty today. Thanks for both of you and Jill provide a lot. Oh, well, you're very welcome. I mean, like I do love to teach. It's wonderful. Courtney says, I was about to ask if we were worried about also bots. I have two pen names for two vastly different genres. It's a lot to manage. I don't want to confuse my readers. Yeah, also bots do matter behind the scenes for sure. So I think if you have the energy and you have the mental wherewithal to manage 2 separate pen names, I think it can be good to do it. But you don't have to like make them so wildly different that people don't know it's you, unless you're writing like clean Christian romance and you're writing, naughty Omegaverse or something like that. Then yeah, you probably do need to keep them separate. But if you don't need to hide your pen names from your readers, then I think you could do it in such a way that anybody who digs a little bit can realize you're the same person. But as far as then the algorithms are concerned, they don't cross promote you too much. Updated link from Yasmin. Good. Cool. So yeah, I caught up on the comments. If I missed a comment you made, you want me to mention it, just post it again, because I did kind of. I was racing to keep up with you guys. Vegas 2019 was the last time. Okay, yeah. So that's right. When you were the character from Wonder Woman, whose name I can't remember all of a sudden, and I was doing Wonder Woman. Yes. I hope that we can see each other again at some point, Mel. It's been a stretch. I think you were good people. I mean, you're all good people, obviously. I'm going to be in Vegas next week. I'm actually curious. Is anyone here going to be there? Any of ye folks going to be making it to Vegas? It'll be interesting playing Author Nation and not 20 books. I'm going to bring my energy, so I'll be there. I'll be doing my thing. I got cat suits, spandex, not latex in this case, but they have the Writing Wives logo on the back. I got them custom printed, and then a little Writing Wives logo on the front. So I'm stoked to wear those. It's gonna be pretty cool. No Vegas for Jody. Shelly says she wishes. Tessa's gonna be there. Cool. Courtney will be there. That's awesome. Well, I have nothing planned except for like lunch and dinner on Tuesday. So I'll be around just hanging out mostly in the lobby. So come find me if you're out there, or message if you want to do anything. Sherry said she'd love to come over from the UK, maybe next time. That'd be nice. I mean, there are other good conferences too, like Inkers Con in Dallas, and the one in New Orleans, the Author Mastermind that Monica and Russell run. Some good options too. Fiona says, I have Fiona Quinn and Fiona Angelica Quinn, very different genres. Things improved with Also Bots when I separated the genres, just anecdotal info. I didn't know you had a different pen name, Fiona. You kept that from me all this time. What do you write under that other pen name? I guess FAC. FAC. Oh, Courtney will be too. Awesome. Mila says, is there a drawback to rapid release a trilogy really rapidly, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the same week? Oh God, that's really rapid. So rapid release is not a be all end all. It's not like a guaranteed winning strategy. The original premise for rapid release ignored the fact that the author doing it was co-authoring with the number 3 science fiction author at the time. In their first presentation they kind of didn't address that fact that they had a built-in audience. And if you have a built-in audience, you don't need to release that fast. You can space it out a bit more. So the real thing is like expectations and consistency. That's what readers want. They don't want, so imagine a scenario where you release all 3 of these books over the course of a weekend like that, and then have nothing for 6 months. I'm not saying you won't have anything for 6 months, but let's say you don't. People will forget about you in those 6 months, and you're not going to have a lot to talk about. Whereas if you did them 1 month, 2nd month, then 6 weeks, well, now you've filled up with all of your release emails and whatnot, a good span of time. And then if it takes you 2 or 3 months to get the next book out, it's not that crazy. So it really depends on what your follow-up is going to be. I do think, so you've got like this opportunity with new releases to rank high in the hot new releases charts. Even if you can't get a #1 bestseller, you could still maybe shoot for #1 in hot new releases in a category. And you can only be in that #1 hot new releases for 30 days. So what I would personally shoot for is, could I be #1 or ranking high in hot new releases for a category for 3 months versus 33 days? So that's something to consider as well. And then also, if you're doing your releases a little more spaced out, you could be doing swaps month 1, month 2, month 3. You could be doing, promos and paid newsletters. You could be doing a sale on book 1 before book 3 comes out. And if you stack them really close together, you've got like a week and a half of release newsletters you can do versus 3 months of release newsletters you can do. So I think that's something to keep in mind. What's your momentum going to be afterward? And if it's going to really fizzle out, then no. I would personally never do 3 releases that close together. I would never do it. I want to have all that stuff to talk about over that longer span of time, and not sort of like blow my load, to use such an inappropriate colloquialism. Sorry, all on one shot like that. Cass will be there. Well, I think I already said that. Emma will be there. Cool. Yeah, find me. Ashley says that they see some people put both pen names of the joint authors. I see that too, but that ruins the also bought stuff and the initial emails. Because when you release a book and people have followed you on Amazon and you release a book, Amazon doesn't email everybody who follows you right away, because Amazon can only send out so many emails, right? They can't email me 15 times a day about different author releases I follow. So what they do is they email 5% of the people that follow me, and they see if they buy. And if they do, they'll email more and more and more. But if they, because they want to put the books that they think are going to sell the best in front of people, because that's how they make their money, right? So if the people from the wrong pen name see, or the people who are like read the other type of book are the ones, a lot of them are the ones that get that first email, then Amazon stops sending if they don't buy. So you can shoot yourself in the foot by doing that. He says, thank you. Have a nice day. Does that mean you're not telling me what you write under the other pen name? I guess I can look it up. You said what it is. Or does it mean you've left? I don't know. Ashley says, I'm interested to see how your Author Nation version of it is through pictures. Yeah, you will. Oh, that sucks that Yasmin, that you can't travel anymore. Bummer. Mila will maybe come next year. Have you thought about coming to SPS London next year? They haven't invited me to speak since pandemic, and I didn't go. Oh wait, no, I wasn't even speaking. They've never invited me to speak. Talk to them about that. They might do that. Start checking the messages in all the different places. Oh, Jill just basically said the same thing I did. Mila says, makes sense about the rapid release. In my mind, I thought it could have boosted read through, but you're so right about the hype building. Yeah, I mean, it can boost read through a little bit, but if you can, build up a funnel of tons and tons of people over the course of month 1. The thing you definitely want to do though is when one comes out, you should have the pre-orders for 2 and 3 already up, and the links in the back of the book and everything like that, so you can start funneling people right into those pre-orders. But yeah, it's all about the hype train, right? Because Amazon doesn't do as much for us as they used to, so you really want to make sure you can build up that hype. Hey Tim, on YouTube. Wait, no, Pig Monster. Is that Chad or Tim? I can never remember. No, you've got a white picture. That's Tim. Pig Monster just seems something that Chad would use for their name. I think they're both my readers for folks who are curious. I did get it right. Hooray. So yeah, hopefully this has been something that helps you guys take your mind off things. But also I do want people to think, to remember that change doesn't happen immediately. We will see signs of things to come, but we shouldn't catastrophize. We shouldn't spiral. Instead, we should plan and strategize and think about like what you're going to do next, what your options are. I had brushed briefly upon MasterCard before, because MasterCard is the reason why a lot of restrictions exist on erotic content. Visa doesn't seem to care. Amex doesn't seem to care. MasterCard is the one that cares. I have a Loyal Fans account, and it literally says every time I post content that they're going to review my content to make sure it complies to MasterCard's rules. OnlyFans doesn't give a shit. They'll post anything. Like I said, because they want the money. MasterCard specifically wants OnlyFans money. But they'll stick to their guns for everybody else. But when it comes to the cash, morals go out the window for them. Or their morals, I should say, go out the window for them, not morals entirely, because I don't think that they're particularly, they're especially more moral than anyone else. So what do we do if you write a lot of erotic stuff, you write queer stuff, you are queer, and you're worried you might be targeted? we've got some options. Patreon is not one of them. Ream might be an option because Ream is very erotica friendly. Ream is a service where people pay a subscription to read your stuff. Another option could be OnlyFans. You literally could put your content on OnlyFans. OnlyFans supports a subscription model. OnlyFans only supports one tier. Like, it's not like Patreon where you can have multiple tiers. There is just one tier. But you could make a subscription to you on OnlyFans free, and then you could make it so that so your subscription's free, and then your content is PPV, pay-per-view, and then they would have to pay to get the PDF or whatever it might be. Do keep in mind that some banks won't do business with you if they find that you're doing business with OnlyFans. So maybe get like another bank account, like Upgrade or something like that, and have OnlyFans deposit the money into that bank account. I think that OnlyFans will also send money to PayPal as well. So, because I know people who've been in porn and they can't get bank accounts because no banks will deal with them after that. So something to keep in mind there. But going all in like OnlyFans, that aside, and lots of people do content like that on OnlyFans, by the way. It's not just porn. There's lots of other types of content that people do on OnlyFans because of their structure. OnlyFans takes 20% though. It's a chunk that they take of your money, which is why MasterCard likes them so much. They have lots of money to give MasterCard. But another option would be Substack. Substack is basically your email. It's like Patreon and your newsletter had a baby, is what Substack is. And you could do a lot of content on there, release it in all sorts of ways on Substack. And you can even, for a one-time $50 fee, you can put your domain name there. So you could have like MalloryDCooper.com goes to my Substack page, and I got my website. You could I'm gonna actually do an experiment. How much of a website can I actually create with Substack? Then you could have like a sort of a website, newsletter, and subscription service all into one. And Substack doesn't charge you any money. There is no fee with Substack. Actually, a way to get a free newsletter if you want. Because if people subscribe to you, then they take a percentage of that. That's how they make their money. So that might be a way to go around it too. You put your spicy stuff over there on Substack or OnlyFans or something like that, and then you keep the cleaner stuff on Amazon if you see things the wind starting to shift. So there are options out there. There are things that you can do. I'll have crochet bookmarks made by Eva in Vegas. I will, yeah. Dun, dun, dun. I would like to go to SPS though, Mila. That'd be nice. I should talk to them. Kate says, RE rapid release. There's a post about an author about rapid releasing a duet 2 weeks apart, I think, and Amazon stripped her page reads because they went up so much. They said she was manipulating her page reads. Yeah, I don't think that sort of thing is like guaranteed to happen, but Amazon can be shifty like that sometimes. Wait. Victoria says, "Thank you, Mel. Great conversation. Moving on to the next stage of grief. Going to get Ben and Jerry's cookies and cream. I'm a cookie dough girl myself. So that might be something I do." Kate says, "Never heard of it, so I keep it in mind. Not that I could tease more than one book every 3 months." You talk about rapid release, Kate? Yasmin said, "I've been trying to think about whether Substack is easier than Patreon, but I have my Patreon growing. I'd like to think Read Book, Game Touchy Book, Game moved to other venues." Yeah, I think so. I think if Patreon's working for you, stick with it. And if your content works there, stick with it. I don't think you need to change. But it might be worth experimenting with. Just like fire one up, see how it goes. Just sort of play with it a bit. It's free. It's got that bonus. But if you got stuff to do, don't worry about it. Do what's working. Patreon is particular about erotic content though. So for anybody who's thinking about ways to deal with that, Patreon is not an option. They're not keen on that sort of thing. Oh yeah, I've tested rapid releasing and non-rapid releasing. For me, I found that my books seem to do the best when they're released 90 days apart, but then other series in the midst of them. That was the best cadence for me. And I've actually talked to other authors who are release a lot across even multiple pen names and whatnot, and they all agree that 90 days seems to be the best. It could be a little bit shorter now. It might be 60 days. Just sort of thinking about attention span and the amount of books in the market. But yeah. Heather says, "Thanks for the reminder. I have mint chip in my freezer." Yeah, go get that. Get that, girl. Wow. We have chatted here for an hour. I was thinking this was going to be a half hour, 45 minutes. That makes sense, Yasmin. Saying it to 18. Yasmin says I have my account set to 18 plus, but don't post much explicit content and all. Yeah, that's probably keeping you safe there too. I do believe that Patreon seems to be most concerned about visual explicit content. I don't think books are something that they worry about nearly as much. So you're saying, Jill, I release a novella in each cozy series about every 3 weeks. So you're saying each series the releases are 3 weeks apart, and then there's another series in between. That's a pace. Jill's cooking right now though. So Sydney says, I've been listening while creating a box set EPUB on Caliber. Thanks for helping me pass the time. You are absolutely welcome, Sydney. It's been really nice to have so many people show up today. We had like over 50 people at one point today, which is pretty rare. I usually don't crack 35 on my Thursday ones. But I'll be back tomorrow at noon Eastern. So 2.5 hours earlier than we started today. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about more stuff. We might talk about some of the same content. Oh, Elizabeth just got here. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not leaving quite yet. There's more time for like any final questions anybody might have, or thoughts anybody might have. But there's the big world with a lot of options out there, a lot of readers in different places, a lot of different markets. A reminder that Scribe Shadow exists, and they're very good at AI translation to other languages. So if you're like, let's crack open that German market, that Spanish market, that French market, you've got some options there that you should be considering, right? Like if the U.S. market gets too tricky, how can I sell my books in other places? Do I think it's going to happen overnight? No, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but it doesn't hurt to have a foothold in other places with translations ahead of time. Other retailers that might be more friendly. I mean, if they come for porn though, then they might just shut down OnlyFans entirely. But I mean, if they shut down OnlyFans entirely, then there's gonna be like OnlyFans.de will be up the next day, right? Like, and I do really wonder, like, would the U.S. population be okay with the Great Firewall of America existing? I would believe that that's something that'd be pretty hard to pull off, at least in the short term. Could be wrong, but could be. Jasmine says I made a raspberry coconut cake yesterday, gluten dairy free. Now I'm glad I did. Oh, that sounds amazing. I've been getting a lot more dairy sensitive these last year or so. You're very welcome, Jody. I am here to be a source of light. I'm a generally optimistic person while still being a bit of a realist, I think. So yeah, and like I said, use me as your bellwether. If I get rounded up and put in a concentration camp, then shit's really hitting the fan. But until then, it's my gallows humor. I have to have some gallows humor. I'm contractually obligated to myself to have gallows humor. So he says, thanks for this chat, Mal. It helps. I posted a comment about OnlyFans in a family chat with my growing kids. I got some big eyes responses. I looked it up the other day. I've made in the last, like, I'm not very active on OnlyFans, and I do precisely zero nudity on OnlyFans. I made $39,000 off OnlyFans in the last couple of years, and sometimes I don't post for months. It's kind of impressive, actually. Monica says I'm eyeing the Spanish, French, and Italian markets. The French market is do French. People are having really good luck with French right now. Hi Dee, how are you doing? You are very welcome. Sorry, I was reading a comment. Courtney, you're very welcome, Courtney. Says, appreciate the time I took out of my day. Trust me, this is as much for me as it is for you. See you tomorrow, Dab. I'll check school too, see if you have any follow-up messages, what we talked about before. I realized the stream was up during lunch, and now I'm worried my book may not be legal to publish because of one of the characters, and it was great to hear your chat here. Yeah, Tess. It's totally legal to publish your book, regardless of the characters you have. And that will take a long time to change. Some people may want to strip away all of the rights that certain groups of people have in this country, but that doesn't mean they can just do it, right? And also keep in mind, right? Presidents talk a big game before they get elected. Politicians talk a big game before they get elected. They don't do a fraction of the things that they say they're going to do. It's never happened. Like Trump had like a clear mandate in 2016, had the House and the Senate, and built like 90 miles of wall across the southern border, right? Like Trump's not a high effort kind of guy. So I'm banking on his laziness as a human being here, you know. So yeah, that's some thoughts there. Oh, that's cool, Elizabeth. You should definitely try Scribe Shadow. It's like $50 to translate like 100,000 word book. Give it a shot. Also, DM me if you want a discount code. Yeah, totally do that, folks. Help your friends out. Oh, Mila says, final question. If you're up for answering, yeah, I got more time. What do you think about the 20/80 rule? I've been thinking a lot lately. And what do you think would look good? So the 20/80 rule, for anybody who doesn't know, is 20% of your effort is giving you 80% of your results, and 80% of your effort is giving you 20% of your results. I think that's absolutely true. I think you need to identify what that 80% is and see if you can trim the fat. I talked to some authors. Like there was a period where I was publishing a book a week. And we're talking like 70 to 80,000 word books. Did 44 books in 2018. There are authors out there that I talk to who are spending 3 to 4x the amount of time on admin work that I spent while I was doing that. Like my max for admin work, aside from like dicking around on Facebook, just chatting with people. I know, because I know some people count that as admin work. I don't. Aside from that, admin work is like never consumed more than like 3-4 hours a week for me as an author. It's so I think if there's an area to cut for most authors, it's that. The other thing is rewriting. Some authors go over their books too much, and I kind of realized I was like reading some authors that outsold me. I'm like, wow, these books are not super well written, and I realized that like me going over everything with a fine tooth comb 17 times wasn't making me any more money. All it was doing was costing me money and costing me opportunity. So I mean, I still believe in writing a quality book, but I'm like, I'm willing to go over it with a fine tooth comb 2 or 3 times, not 17 times. But yeah, there is definitely things that you're doing that are part of that 80% that's giving you 20% of your results. However, some of the things that you think are part of the 80% are actually the efforts that are getting you super fans. And super fans are worth it. So do think, like, are these direct outreach things that are putting me in like real contact with my readers and turning real readers into super fans? Because that I don't want to stop doing. I want to keep doing that, even if it's lower return. It's worth it in the long run. So make sure you don't stop your super fan activities. Is there a good book or anything about translations out there? I don't know if there's any good books about them, but Scribe Shadow is ridiculously simple to use. Like it's copy paste simple. Well, it's upload the doc file, the Word doc, get a translated document back simple. French market loves romance. Yeah, I think the thing with the French market I've heard is that in France everybody writes literary fiction, and they're dying for some actual genre fiction. So far, what I know that works best there, Amy, is pretty much any kind of romance. Although Germany, science fiction and actually urban fantasy and PNR does really well in all those places as well. Asman says, all my translations were done with trad. Now I'm trying to figure out how in indie. Yeah, you just like Scribe Shadow, go to their website, you can do the translation, and then you can actually pay an extra fee for a human to proof it as well. But it turns out that the proofs are so good that most people are just only do that for a book or two and then stop and just go straight with the AI translation. Paula posted a code for a subscription for Scribe Shadow. So yeah, try that. That's worth it. Deborah says she writes Regency and the markets are big. I believe that. That's awesome, Yasmin, that your trad stuff did so well. Do you know what subgenres? I think right now every subgenre, Amy. Germany's getting a little bit more saturated, but France, they're hungry. Like I see people that are like making $2,000 or $3,000 a month with like $10 ad spend and word of mouth in France, and it's like across many romance genres. Paul says my urban fantasy PG is doing really well in France. Got #1 in its category. Yeah, so there you go, folks. Yeah, it's somewhat-ish relatively new, Yasmin, but it is the best. It's like hot shit for sure. Check it out. I would strongly recommend it. It's gonna be tricky for my books because I use non-standard formatting for a bunch of things, and it has some trouble with it, but I'm working on a way as well of getting around that. One of my readers says, as a reader, getting to talk directly to the author about their books is significantly better than an author doesn't interact with their readers. Yeah, so the work you do to interact directly with your readers is definitely worth it. Absolutely. All right, folks, I'm gonna jet. I I have to take a biological break. Back in the biz world, we call them bio breaks, but I think that would have been obvious. I don't know why I felt the need to clarify that. Anyway, it has been really good chatting with all of you. We'll be back tomorrow for regular lunch with Mel at noon Eastern. So if your nerves need to be calmed again, or you need to vent your spleen or anything like that, you can absolutely show up tomorrow and we can do some more of this. I won't be doing a lunch with Mel next week because I'll actually be giving my presentation at around that exact time. But we'll be back the week after again. Some updates about how Author Nation went in Vegas as well. So it was awesome seeing all you people. Translation AI software programs have problems with historical romance. I believe at Sydney, and probably like fantasy and sci-fi can see some issues too because of non-standard names and whatnot. So that's where that where proofers will come into play. And I've got readers who speak a bunch of these languages, so I'll definitely be leaning on them. That sort of thing too. All right, folks, it's been great chatting with you. This was been good for me too, trust me. So thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it. Have yourselves a better than you expected 6 hours ago, 9 hours ago Thursday. You know, there are silver linings out there. Just find them and hang on to them like crazy. I'll see you guys tomorrow.